CRC was established in the first place to improve community relations across the region, and that still remains the core purpose of the organisation. So we work with communities in their relationships with each other. We work with government departments to make sure that their policies are supporting good community relations. We've just come out of 30 and more years of conflict, and it has left us with two issues. We have to learn to work and live with each other for the future, so building trust and good relations going forward, and at the same time managing the conflict from the past, so acknowledging and deal with the hurt that came before us. So we've two issues, the past and the future, essentially, and the work is made up of dealing with both of those.
The Community Relations Council does need to ensure that people don't get complacent in terms of where we are 16 years on from the Belfast Agreement. It is possible that Northern Ireland could slip back. I think it's right that we're frightened of Northern Ireland slipping back, and we're wary of the potential for some sort of violence to return. But what we can never be is frightened of taking reasonable risks for peace and peace building. And the Community Relations Council at its core is about supporting people to take those reasonable risks, work through the challenges and difficulties at a local level so that they do their work building a better community where they live, and that then has a huge impact on building a better society for us all in Northern Ireland.
Trying to create change in a society, you need to intervene at a number of different levels. You need to intervene at the top level, middle level and the grassroots. And CRC is in the middle layer. So our role is always trying to influence up and influence down. And in terms of influencing up, that's where, producing conferences and publications and resources and factoring it into how we talk to political parties and departments and engaging with those. Work at the intermediate level is always going to be working with local councils, with cultural and heritage organisations, and being part of a space that is created at a broader level. And then in terms of supporting work on local level, it might be saying, well, if you're thinking of this project, have you thought of that one? What about this? What about the other? Where are the voices of women? Where are the voices of young people? Where's the voices of labour in this story that you're going to tell? In terms of maybe funding small bits of that, or signposting people to other people who can either fund it or can resource it with information or ideas.
Community Relations Council, for me as an academic, has always been a place where I could arrange meetings, where I could engage with people, and they, in their part, the Community Relations Council, were going out and supporting good relations officers in councils to try and get projects going, that's supporting the funding of projects to try and deal with the issue on the ground. And I've found it very helpful to have an organisation like the Community Relations Council, which I can engage with constantly, through which I can feed my academic work, and it gives me a chance to have an easy access to events that are taking place in the community.
Well, there are three words that you will see time and time again in the logo and other materials that CRC produces, and the three words are equity, diversity and interdependence. Equity is concerned with fairness. It takes into account equality of opportunity, which this organisation believes is a very important principle that underpins the agreement and underpins the work of CRC as well. But it is also concerned with equality of outcome and this notion of fairness in society. And that notion has actually become more interesting across, I hear a lot of debate about fairness and this notion of the spirit level, the difference that there might be between wealth and poverty and so on. So we like that term because it takes those issues into account. So that's one term that matters a lot to us. The other is diversity. And this is really important in community relations work, because sometimes people can think that community relations work is really about making sure that we all end up the same. And that's absolutely not what the work is about. It's all about saying that there is diversity and difference in society, and that we should be valuing that and seeking it out and valuing it and making sure that society reflects the diversity that there is there. And the third term then, which is equally important, is interdependence, and that has to do with, while we recognise there is diversity and we want to champion diversity, we also realise that however different we are interdependent one on another, and that's an important thing when you're building cohesion across people and communities, that our sense of we find our place amongst each other and we'll all thrive together, that's an important part of the work as well. So those are three principles that really matter to us. Those values underpin the work that we do, and we strongly believe that you have to find practical ways of expressing them. There's no point in having a theoretical idea of what a good society would look like if you can't find ways to express that in the everyday lives of people. So a great deal of the work that we support, and that's with small grants, with larger grants, or in development work that we do with others, is really about bringing life and vitality into those three ideas. So we work with all sides of society to bring diversity into the room, and we support, you'll see if you look at our grants and so on, so many activities that actually give expression to the various different groupings that there are in our society. But we also, and you'll see it when you look at the meetings that we run here, also have a wide range of views and opinions that come into the room. So that notion of one being interdependent on another is lived out in the work that we do and in the support that we give to other organisations to give breath to that. Practical intervention is absolutely crucial to our work.
It's about relationships. It's about bringing people together to talk about things they don't normally talk about with people they don't normally meet.
The Community Relations Council plays an important role in ensuring that community relations issues are mainstreamed throughout government policies, programmes and funding. We analyse government consultations to see if there's a community relations impact or if there's potential for promoting community relations within them. We also work with our partners on the ground to keep abreast of what the current issues are and all the different community relations issues. And we work with others such as researchers and the universities to gather statistical evidence also to support our responses and trying to influence government policy.
We think it's really important that peace building and reconciliation is recognised within government, is integrated into all strands of government, because this is such a cross-cutting theme, and we use the research and policy papers that we produce in order to influence government positively.
The Community Relations Council would also have a strong challenge function with government in relation to policy, and the current policy is the United Community Programme. We engage with our partners on the ground to ensure we can give voice to the sector, give voice to the practicalities on the ground, and help feed that into the government policy as it develops and as the programmes within it develop.
But through the experience that we have, through our research in terms of the needs of Northern Ireland as well as good practice elsewhere in the world, we are able to tell government, I suppose, what works elsewhere, warn government what may not work in terms of what it wants to do, because at the end of the day, in this case, getting the structures right is just of critical importance to how Northern Ireland moves forward. Making sure there is sufficient support and resourcing for people on the ground doing this work is fundamentally important to how we continue to improve relationships at a grassroots level.
We have provided funding and then development support in a number of ways. First of all, in helping local groups to gather together their own thoughts about how they think they might intervene in this discussion. It's really important that these matters are locally owned. So we do support a lot of local initiatives that are really bringing community views together. We support some research in helping those groups to look at what is the best way to gather community opinion, how do you keep communities engaged, how do you ensure that you're reflecting local views as change takes place over time, and how do you transmit that change back out to communities so that they feel secure and that they belong to the change and that it's being done with them and not to them. So we do support quite a bit of work in relation to that. We also support practical initiatives that are basically planning processes taking place across both sides of the divide, if you like, and that is where they're jointly planning for either programmes that they're going to run together, services that they'll deliver for young people in the local area, for community group activity, regeneration ideas. All of that, we support projects that link those things together, and then we also have supported projects that are dealing specifically with the walls themselves, looking at which parts of the walls can either be removed or reduced in size, or opening of gates that would have been closed all the time, and what support, working with the Department of Justice on what support will need to be there once those walls either come down or gates are opened, to ensure that people are safe and secure and that issues are dealt with quickly if they emerge over time. So we're intervening at all levels in that discussion.
Because talking about it's easy, you know, talking about saying, wouldn't it be good if we all got together? But we live in a community where we say, actually, that doesn't happen by itself. So that's what the funding enabled. The stuff that you think, well, that's natural, isn't. It's not natural because we live in such segregated communities. But the support of Community Relations Council enables the abnormal to become normal. The things that were extraordinary 10 years ago are every day. What we want to leave behind is not just a set of receipts and an evaluation. What we want to leave behind is a set of relationships, is people with a shifted idea of what the other is, and also in that, a shifted idea of who they are.
It's particularly helped with a number of projects that have allowed us to bring people together, including Belfast Friendship Club. And it's allowed us to then as well to reflect on our practice, to look at what it is we do, why we do it, what works, what doesn't, and maybe to capture some of the learning. It has a sort of a whole multitude of support mechanisms in place, as well as advice from some of the staff as well.
One of the programmes which CRC has funded and supported us to do is develop Open College Network accredited training, where kids who come through our programme who are interested in sport, but particularly interested in sport as a tool for doing community relations work, can gain a qualification, a recognised qualification, in how to promote diversity through sport or how to build positive relations through sport.
Well, I think everybody acknowledges the importance of the independence of the Community Relations Council, because there are things that we need to say, challenge to government, challenge to civic society, as well as to people on the ground. So that independent voice is just a critical need when we are a society that is still coming out of conflict, and there are still so many interests and such competing thoughts about the future.
Particularly with organisations who may feel distant from government, who may feel disconnected from wider, having an independent organisation that can address some of those fears, that can address some of those issues, is vital. And to be that connector between what's happening in communities and what's happening in terms of decision making and policy makers, having that connector is vital.
Having an independent body that is working in the area of community relations is essential for Northern Ireland. I'd love the day when that wasn't true, but we're some way off it.
I think CRC has a real sort of bank of institutional knowledge that it would be disgraceful if we lost. People who know and who've worked and who've seen the changes through the years and the ups and the downs, and have a really broad understanding of how community, diversity, good relations work in Northern Ireland.
I think there is no doubt that the activity of the Community Relations Council over the last 20 years has been essential, has been needed, and has been, I think, effective. It has been able to raise critical questions. It has been able to operate in a mode of what sometimes might be called critical friendship. It has been able to push churches, it's been able to push community organisations, it's been able to push political society towards a vision of community relations, and a better vision of community relations. It will be a poor place, I think, if we have not got a focused body engaging political and civil society with the challenges of building community relations and building peace in Northern Ireland.
I'm very proud of the work of the Community Relations Council, and I'm very proud of the people who established the organisation in the first place. We couldn't do this work on our own, we don't do it on our own. In a sense, the Community Relations Council is not one organisation, it's a whole family of organisations that have been involved in this work over many, many years, and I'm proud of them all. We need the Community Relations Council, and that we continue to need a Community Relations Council. There's some discussion at the minute about whether or not its work should be devolved into other institutions or organisations, and our council feels that provided that the work is protected, provided that there's a good understanding of who needs to be involved in it and how, then we're content that a new structure may emerge. That can happen over time, but the work, it's absolutely important that it's protected. Community relations is not an issue that gets fixed and dealt with and solved. It's an ongoing issue for any society, and a good society will take seriously the task of building good community relations and put resources behind that, and we believe in that.
Taking reasonable risks for peace is what we do, we support other people to do, and we want people in government and other leaders to take reasonable risks too.